let's try it again.
Let's take it back a year to see what led to this disaster. So I was thinking about how my cat that looks like this potato also looks like the legendary Pokemon Raikou. I mean, just look at that face. So of course, I decided to sculpt Dotty as my reimagined version of the electric saber-tooth. I played around with Raikou's color scheme to make it look just like Dotty for a unique, shiny Pokemon like you've never seen before. I first needed some measurements. Americans will use anything but the metric system. With the size of this sculpture finally in mind, now we can really get into it. I start by making a scaled drawing on poster board and use that as a guide for a simple armature made of scrap wood, newspaper, and plastic wrap. I'm using Stoneware clay for this project. With the armature built, I can start packing on the clay with sophisticated techniques. I built the legs separately from the main armature so that I can have more freedom of movement. This thing is coming along quickly, but still, something's off. With the help of some printed photos, I can better see the nuances of a prehistoric cat, so I had to do a good bit of reworking. Even still, I printed off some 3D models, and I have reason to believe that this one is anatomically correct. Having these 3D models was an absolute game changer for interpreting the musculature, and it really got the ball rolling. It's time to start on the feet, but this part of the armature is in the way. Raikou has 3 large claws, but seems to have no discernible toes. Since this is my semi-realistic rendition of Dotty as Raikou, I'm going to try out making 3 large claws emerging individually from somewhat noticeable toes. Now on to the face. The face was one of the most frustrating parts of this sculpt. Would you believe it? This thing quickly turned into Squidward. Then the Monopoly Man. Then the creature from the Black Lagoon. Eventually, I started to hit my stride and this thing was really coming together. But life got in the way for a bit. Well, it's been an entire year since this project has seen the light. Completely unsalvageable, there's only one thing left to do. Now I'm back in a communal studio with more space, resources, and a new enthusiasm for life. So let's get back to where we left off a year ago, but better this time. Now that we're caught up, let's start on Raikou's mask. Or shall we call her Dotku at this point? I spent a while making a paper template that fits just about perfectly. From there, I'm using the slab roller for a nice, consistently thin sheet of clay. Once the canvas texture is smoothed out, I can lay the paper template down and carefully cut out the mask. Now I'm not actually going to attach this one just yet. I'll probably end up making another later because I'm mainly using this one to get the ears in the proper positioning, marking the end of a major phase in the process. So the majority of the form has been achieved, but there's still a long way to go. I still have to come in and refine a lot of these little details, but the main thing I'm focused on right now is the fur texture. So let's fluff this thing up. The fur phase is a highly transformative part of the process, but I actually hate doing it. So much effort creating muscle and skeletal contours, and now I have to glob clay on top of that and sculpt it in a gestural and flowing way without losing all the original nuances. But please, sit back and enjoy my pain for a bit. Now I've got to figure out what to do for this swirly little butt tuft. This was a struggle because I have to transfigure something highly stylistic into something somewhat realistic, and after many attempts I ended up stopping at this point, but I'll do better at tying that in later. Trust me. And what about this thing on its back? I assume this is some type of cape, though it could be a mullet from the right angle. It's probably a cloud cape, but I want to try to portray it as flowing fabric by laying a thin slab of clay over plastic and crinkling it up. Good in theory, but it didn't work too well. I was messing around off camera and discovered something that I think looks more like the original, so I guess this part of the process will remain a mystery. Now I can finally put that mask on so that I can attach the cloud cape and tie it in with some more fur. This swirly bit here gave me the same dilemma as the butt tuft, but I ended up with something that I think works pretty well. Something cool about Dotty is her lightning bolt forehead. However, Raikou's mask has some bolts in this spot. I'm going to forego the bolts and make it look as if the mask here has been torn into a lightning bolt shape instead. And instead of this star-shaped disc, I'm going to interpret it as exaggerated cheek fur and whiskers. The last addition for the face is a little bit of ear hair. I've really got to figure out what to do about this spindly tail. Everything in me is telling me not to use clay, so naturally, I use clay. I just couldn't find any other material that I thought would harmonize with the rest of the sculpture, but if you have any thoughts, leave a comment. This little spark at the end was a problem too. I tried several ways to make something that looked convincing yet wasn't cheesy or lacking in depth, even some more abstract methods. Oh, that looks terrible. So ultimately, I decided to scrap it and lean heavily into the lightning bolt shape. I even gave it a little bit of curvature for some realistic cat swagger. If you think she's missing something, you're right. She is a saber-tooth after all. Oh, and she has distinctive patterns as well. I've carved the general outline of her patches and made sure to include Dotty's smallest of dots, even on her feet. This thing is looking awesome with the teeth, but there is a small conflict. Dotty has a chipped tooth. It was painful to do, but I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. And with that, the wet work is done, and now we just patiently await firing. A lot of interesting things have happened over the past few weeks, and here's the rundown. After a little bit of drying time, the sculpture was hacked up into pieces so that I could get the armature out of the main part of the body and the legs. The interior of every piece is shaved to a thin, even consistency, then put back together and meticulously cleaned up. But of course, I had to give Dotty a little walnut brain before putting her head back in place and refining the details for the 1000th time. Once bone dry, she was carefully loaded up in this kiln and fired slowly to nearly 2000 degrees. She's still pretty warm, but once she's unloaded, the final step is color. I'm using underglaze since Dotku will be displayed outside, and I've already done a few test tiles. Underglaze is generally reliable, but it's always important to test because as you can see here, this one's fired color doesn't match what you see in the bottle. There is a strategy involved with applying the color. I'm first going to wash in dark brown to her patches for a solid foundation and to creep into the cracks and small textures. It's okay to be a bit messy at this stage. It's actually part of the strategy, because the great thing about underglaze is that it easily wipes off of unwanted areas. Once this base layer is established, I can start applying other earthy fur tones seen in her patches and the prominent black areas that really add some great contrast and focal points, just like her little beauty mark here. Now, I tediously stipple on her tabby stripes before moving on to the mask and cloud cape, which by the way, looked great as pink in the concept, but didn't translate well on the sculpture. Once I saw a brain, I couldn't unsee it, so I ended up going with my second choice, which was yellow. No longer brainy, but now a sulfur cloud. It makes sense if you knew how gassy Dotty can be. At last, I can carefully paint her fur white and bring her to life with the eyes and nose. Oh, and can't forget the dingy patch under her chin. With that said and done, she gets loaded up and fired in a kiln once more to fuse the underglaze color to the stone beneath. After a full day of firing and cooling, she is carefully unloaded and brought back to the work area to add any last touch-ups. I am incredibly happy with how she turned out, and I'm finally ready to reveal this goofy girl as a fearsome legendary Pokemon.